An old evangelist had just finished a revival campaign in a large Midwestern town. Sitting in a train depot waiting for his train, he had his Bible open to the 3rd chapter of John, just sitting there meditating on the scriptures. A young man seated next to him said, "Pardon me, sir, but I see you have your Bible open to the 3rd chapter of John. If you have time, may I tell you a story about my own life and those scriptures?" The old gentleman said, "Well, yes, I have about 45 minutes here before my train is due." And so the young man asked him to step outside the train depot, and he pointed down the street about 3 blocks to where stood a large round building. And he said, "Preacher, years ago that old building there was known as a rescue mission, and regardless of what kind of derelict from society a man may have become, he could simply walk to the door of that old mission, and with the words John 3:16, all of his needs would be met, whether it be food, shelter, or clothing." I was a little old 12-year-old orphan boy one cold December day, and I was walking up and down the street here peddling newspapers. I walked up to a big old policeman. I said, "Pardon me, sir, would you buy a newspaper that I might get me something to eat?" The man says, "Boy, I'd like to help you out, I really would, but you just go down the street there, that big old round building, and you knock on the door, and when the man comes to the door, you just say John 3:16. and everything's going to be all right." Well, preacher, I didn't know what that meant, but I knew I was hungry, and so I went down the street, and I knocked on that big old door. Man come to the door, and I said bravely, "John 3:16. Well, boy, you should have seen his face light up into a big old smile. He said, "Son, you come inside here where it's warm." I went inside, and there was a big old warm, cheery fire, and he pulled me up a big old easy chair, and I sat down, and boy, I got warmer than I had been in days. And I said to myself, boy, this John 3:16, he knows how to warm somebody up. Then the man come back again. He said, "Son, have you had anything to eat today?" I said, "No, sir, I hadn't eaten nothing since yesterday." He said, "Well, you come with me." And preacher, he took me to a room, and there was a table full of all kinds of food, more than I had ever seen at one time in my life. He said, "Son, you just sit down, make yourself at home, eat all you want." Boy, did I ever eat so much I couldn't contain it anymore. I said to myself, my, this John 3:16, he knows how to feed a country boy. Then the man come back in, he said, "Pardon me, son, looks like maybe you might need a good bath and maybe a change of clothes." I said, "Oh, that'd be so nice. I hadn't been able to bathe since the weather turned cold. These are little pants somewhere, and they're getting kind of tattered and worn. I'd like to have some new clothes." Well, you know what he did, preacher? He handed me some brand new clothes, just my size. And he said, "Son, up there at the head of the stairs is a place you can draw yourself a good tub of hot water and have you a good bath." Well, I went up there and had me a long, leisurely bath, and later on getting dressed in them new clothes, I said, my, this John 3:16, he sure can clean a feller up. Then the man come back again. He said, "Son, do you happen to have a place to stay tonight?" I said, "No, sir. I slept last night in an old pasteboard box." He said, "Well, we'd like to have you stay with us." He took me to another place, and preacher, that was the first time I had ever slept on a feather bed. I lay there kind of floating between heaven and earth, and just before I dozed off, I said, "Well, Mr. John 3:16, whoever you are, this is sure rest for a weary soul." Waking next morning with a nice breakfast fixed, had me another good meal. Then the man said, "Son, we know you got to leave us now and go on your way, but you got to promise to come see us next time you come through here, and here's a little money for your travels." About that time, preacher, I began to cry, and I said, "Pardon me, sir, don't you think that I'm ungrateful? I never have been treated so good, but could I have just one more favor before I go?" The man said, "What's that, son?" "Could I meet this John 3:16, whoever he is?" He said, "Son, you mean you don't even know John 3:16? I said, "No, sir, I never met him in my entire life." He said, "Well, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." And there, preacher, a little old 12-year-old orphan boy made me an altar, and I met that man, old John 3:16. Yes, yes, oh yes, Jesus died to set the sinner free. You say, how do I know it? John 3:16 will show it. That big word, whosoever, just